For nearly 10 years, the silence was absolute. Trevor Engelson moved forward, built a new life, and completely disappeared from the high-stakes narrative of his past, allowing the world to hear only one carefully constructed version of events. He did not push back against the interviews, the documentaries, or the global headlines that framed his first marriage. He simply waited, operating under the quiet belief that the truth would eventually speak for itself. But the silence has finally and completely broken, and what Engelson is now revealing is the kind of truth that cannot be walked back once it is spoken out loud. Welcome to Royal Scope, where today we unmask the sudden, disruptive fractures in a narrative the world thought it already understood. According to those closest to Engelson during his marriage to Meghan Markle, a revelation was shared early in their relationship that would quietly shape everything that followed. She reportedly told him that she could not have children. For most couples, news of this magnitude triggers a profound, shared grieving process, emotional conversations, medical consultations, and a painful reshaping of the future. But Engelson did not argue, question, or seek second opinions. Loving her meant accepting the reality she presented, and he adjusted his own dreams quietly, without complaint or resentment, never once using the disclosure against her. Then came the moment that changed everything. When the news broke that she had gone on to welcome 2 children with Prince Harry, that long-buried conversation rushed back like a collapsing wall. Sources close to Engelson specify that his reaction was not a standard explosion of anger, but a profound, disorienting confusion, the kind of quiet hurt that settles deep under the skin and never truly leaves. It was the first real crack in his understanding of the woman he had married, a hidden fault line that waited in the dark for years before splitting wide open. Yet, the pregnancy revelation is merely the prelude to a much more chilling disclosure regarding the exact mechanics of how their marriage ended. After nearly a decade together, defined by long-distance sacrifice and a shared blueprint for the future, Engelson did not receive a final conversation, a phone call, or even a basic explanation. Instead, an ordinary, lightweight package arrived at his door with no note, no message, and no goodbye. Resting at the bottom of that box was her wedding ring, dropped into the mail like a returned retail item. This gesture communicated everything without a single word. The decision had been made privately, completely alone, leaving him entirely excluded from the conclusion of his own story. When that box was opened, the lingering doubts his family had harbored for years suddenly snapped into painful clarity. It signaled the existence of a far more calculated trajectory, one that began long before global television interviews, Windsor Castle, or the introduction of a British prince. Insiders who claim to have seen it firsthand reveal that long before meeting Prince Harry, she had constructed a highly specific vision board. While most people use these for career goals or vacation dreams, this board featured Prince Harry at its absolute center, not as a passing celebrity crush, but as a deliberate, mapped-out destination. She had studied the royal family, analyzed the possibilities, and envisioned a future inside that specific world. For Engelson, learning the precise timeline of this board transformed his past confusion into a chilling realization. He was not a partner in a drifting marriage, but a specific chapter that needed to be closed before the next phase could begin. The most staggering revelation, however, involves the logistics of that very first meeting with Prince Harry. Sources close to that period allege that she arrived at the encounter wearing Princess Diana's favorite perfume. The science of scent is precise. It bypasses the analytical mind and connects directly to memory and raw emotion. For a man carrying the unhealed wounds of childhood grief, that specific fragrance instantly triggered an intense, inexplicable feeling of warmth, safety, and familiarity. What felt to Harry like destiny, insiders claim, was a highly intentional, carefully considered choice designed to access the most vulnerable part of his heart. As these details emerge, they raise a profound question about the nature of calculated intentions, leaving many to wonder where the line falls between pursuing a dream and orchestrating a reality. If you find this deep dive into the hidden layers of royal history compelling, take a moment right now to subscribe to Royal Scope and share your thoughts in the comments below on whether a past can ever truly remain buried. The impact of these disclosures is now creating unprecedented turbulence inside the walls of the Montecito mansion. According to whispers from those close to the Sussex household, Harry's reaction to these sudden revelations has not been a standard press denial or defensive anger. Instead, it has manifested as long, withdrawn silences, the behavior of a man replaying his own memories through a completely unvarnished lens. An insider claims that Harry recently delivered a sentence that cut through the domestic atmosphere like a knife, stating quietly, "Stop blaming the palace for everything." This single utterance exposes a deep, underlying exhaustion and the very first fractures of doubt in the absolute trust he once placed in a singular version of past events. For the first time, the reflex to immediately defend has been replaced by a willingness to sit with highly uncomfortable questions, all triggered by the one man who knew the story before the global reinvention. But the momentum is only building. Sources extremely close to Engelson indicate that he has been sitting on significantly more documented information for years, holding it back out of a strict code of personal restraint. That restraint is now rapidly fading. There are credible indicators of a memoir in its early stages, alongside discussions for a detailed, direct sit-down interview supported by personal letters and private communications. The reported behind-the-scenes legal and social pressure applied to maintain his silence has backfired, acting as a motivator rather than a deterrent for a man who carried the truth alone for a decade. Engelson is not a figure attempting to damage the future, but a witness who lived a version of the past that was systematically omitted from every interview, memoir, and Netflix documentary. He is the chapter that was skipped, the silent observer whose sudden decision to speak represents the single most disruptive threat to a carefully curated public image. The first domino has fallen, leaving both Hollywood and the palace to quietly ask a dangerous question. If the man who knew her before everything is finally speaking, who else is waiting for this exact moment to do the same? This is no longer just a look back at history. It is the beginning of an entirely new narrative unfolding in real time.